Hey everyone, Trailblazing families and Trailblazing families to be. I'm really excited today to have Andrew Jernigan here with Insured Nomads. He's a CEO and he's a busy guy, so I only have him for about 35 minutes. He's got other meetings. So I am going to be checking the chat. Please do ask questions and let us know. Let me just check. Trailblazing. Yeah, I had to mute myself. So let us know if you're here, and I'm just going to ask Andrew a bunch of newbie questions about travel insurance and other types of insurance that are for us world schoolers. I think, Andrew, you specialize in insurance for like companies that have remote workers and lots of traveling people, long-term, short-term, all different kinds, correct?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you all. I have world schooled in many different forms and am a risk management, travel risk management, insurance executive, just passionate about this space. And it's great to be here with you today. There'll be a chance for you to ask questions, and I'm going to just give some basics all the way to some more complex aspects of it. So
yeah, actually, Andrew,
welcome everyone. Invite other colleagues and friends that you are on Facebook with, just say, hey, join in.
Yes, definitely. So Andrew, before we get into the insurance stuff, I want to hear, because you live our lifestyle, your family, you guys have been traveling and world schooling. So tell us a little bit about your family experience living this lifestyle.
Well, let's see. My kids are now 21, 17, and 15, or soon to be 15. Mm-hmm. And we started this journey when our youngest was 3 and our middle child was 3 months old.
Wow.
We decided to raise them around the world and loaded up with books from Singapore math to all kind of different things for preparing for kindergarten for that one, because we left when he was 3, but we didn't know when we would be able to stock up when we left.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time ago. That was before online schooling. That was 20-something years ago.
Wow.
We have tried every flavor of this, from having a teacher travel with us to lots of different variations, local school to online school to every format. I feel like we've made every mistake that can be made until tomorrow, when I get to make some new mistakes, probably today.
That's awesome. So how many countries did you guys visit or live in during these many years?
Oh, I'm not the sort that keeps track of those, because it's the
5,
the
10,
life and the
20.
experience, not the
Right.
I would say 15 or so.
Okay,
but it's not a thing to where we're keeping patches or stickers or anything. It's the experience, the life.
I have seen kids with backpacks with patches from all over the world. I love that idea.
I did that when I was before marriage, because I started this lifestyle and then wanted to find someone to marry and that would do this with me. And so, yeah, did it.
That's awesome. And more of us are doing it. You are one of the first Trailblazing families to do this, and that's the name of our group. So, okay. So, Andrew, tell us how you got into the insurance and the InsurTech field.
Undergrad, I built online banking. I'll just go way back. Back when I was working at a large bank, I was asked if I wanted to be on a team to build the ability to log in and check your balance and pay bills and things like that. And that was, 28 years ago or so.
Revolutionary back then.
Right. And then after living around the world, after we spent a number of years on the African continent, and I got back to the US, we'd seen so many things happen. And I thought, I'm going to start a brokerage firm. This was back then. This is not where I am now. Mm-hmm. And represented 25 of the leading carriers, the insurance companies, mm-hmm. from Asia, from South Africa, from Europe, different companies, because I was serving all nationalities. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked at how outdated it was. Mm. Finance, banking, they embrace technology so much faster than insurance. Mm. And after about 7 years of that, I decided, and that was in 2019, decided to start an insurance provider to build out plans and make it human using technology. So we're not digitizing we're humanizing the digital experience.
Okay.
Because so many times it's a packet in the mail or a PDF on an email, both of them kind of untouched. So
Right.
that's a little bit of the origin. I know folks are gonna, we can go deeper. So but that's a little bit of the background of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've been in it for a long time, and it's great that you live this nomadic lifestyle. So tell us, I mean, many of us have insurance back in our home countries. I mean, obviously, we Americans have very expensive insurance. The health insurance industry is kind of a giant nightmare for many people. You know, we don't have insurance for everyone paid for by the government, like a lot of our European friends. So it's really difficult for us when we're going abroad to figure out, you know, how to stay safe, what happens if something goes wrong. So, I mean, there's a variety of insurance companies out there. So, you know, I wanted to kind of talk about them in general and Insured Nomads in specifically. I do know some nomads who travel without insurance, you know.
Yes, some people are able to take that risk on themselves. Financially, they're willing to, and that's, you know, that's a viable solution for some. They're willing to not transfer that risk over to an insurance company.
Right.
You know, and the same thing with driving a car. Some folks are like, if I hit some car and I need to replace their car, I've got the money in the bank. I haven't had an accident in years.
Right.
I'll pay for their medical bills if I hit them and they end up in the hospital, you know? So it's kind of the same way when people decide, okay, I won't get insurance, I'll cover it myself.
Yeah, I think people
some people are financially able to.
Right, or they're thinking I'm going to a low cost of living country, and they don't think of the worst scenario. They just think if I stub my toe or get a, you know, some little injury or illness, I can just go and pay $20, $30, $40 to get it taken care of.
Right,
but
which is often the case, because cost of care in many nations is inexpensive until you're an expat, until you're a foreign national, and then the prices are different oftentimes.
Yeah,
many times they're the same. But it's more of one of those questions I've had to ask myself, because I wasn't in risk management when I started this. My wife's a travel medicine physician, originally pediatrician, and then global health, master's and MBA and et cetera, just so she continued her journey. And, you know, I wasn't aware of these things. We had the long-term lifestyle. So with the long-term lifestyle, travel insurance isn't ideal, because if you or a family member gets diagnosed with an illness that is chronic, that isn't covered when your travel insurance policy expires and you get a new travel insurance policy. It starts all over again. Okay.
So you have, there's pre-existing conditions that are not covered by some of these short-term policies, correct?
Correct. Even if you buy it for a year, at the end of that, it's a whole new policy. You can renew it for a period of time often. And that's ideal. If you're just starting out and you're looking at, okay, we're going to explore worldschooling. We're going to do this for a bit and then come back. If you're coming from a country, say France or Brazil or Canada or Israel, where there's a national program, a government scheme that covers you, that's great, because if you get diagnosed with a major illness, you can go back to your home country. If you're coming from a country that doesn't have a government subsidized program and there's a diagnosis that is chronic, you may have to come home, and at home, if you don't have the resources, or if your family can't cover for you, you'll have to finance that yourself somehow. Until you can get on a policy that will cover those conditions. And a scenario I look at a lot of times when I've dialogued with folks is, well, you know, I've never had issues. I'm 38 years old and active and healthy, and it's the thing of, okay, great. If I were on a hike and slipped and broke my neck, which does happen, that rare thing, but it happens. Am I okay staying in that country and recovering? And in my case, many times, I'm okay with that. And in some cases, I've had national insurance. I've stayed long enough to where I could get insurance in the country I'm staying in, which is wonderful. But then you have to realize, okay, I've got to deal with customer service in that language. Is that what I want? And so there are two elements of this. Travel insurance was originally designed for a short trip, knowing that you're coming home and you're going to have coverage back home, whether it's a national program or a comprehensive health insurance back home.
Mhm.
So it hasn't changed in the last 25 years. That's still the intent of it.
Okay.
And it's a PDF attached to an email. And if you get sick and you're in the hospital, you're going to have to open up your computer or your phone and search through 600 emails, try to find it. Now, with our solution, we provide an ID card that's right there with your boarding pass in your Apple Wallet, Google Wallet. So you don't have to search through emails to find it. We have an app with emergency response button right there, 24/7. You don't have to call a number. You hit that button. And live chat. Now, that's the technology that we're all used to order things online, and it gets there in a couple of days in some places. We're used to getting a taxi, ordering with Rappi in South America or whatever, and everything is there. If you're going for a longer and you think this is a lifestyle, that you're going to be gone for the better part of a year or the next 3 years,
Mhm.
get a health insurance plan, not a travel insurance plan.
Okay, so you call it an
Because-
international health insurance plan or global health insurance
Correct.
plan? Okay.
Yes. And you can choose a region. So you could say, I only need South America,
Okay.
or I only need South America and Europe, or I want to include Canada and Europe and South America. As
Mhm.
you look at the options to reduce the cost, restrict the area of coverage because of medical inflation goes up every year, as well as global inflation. Those are two of the factors of price increases each year. But it's key, if you're doing this for a lifestyle, unless you're able to carry that risk, and again, many people are,
Well,
they've got the savings.
yeah, but medical care can be very, very expensive if you
Yes.
have a really bad accident.
I've never been able to carry that risk myself,
Yeah.
you know. And married to a doctor, I know how crazy things can get. A 14-year-old living in Malawi, parents contacted me because they paid $5,000 a year for health insurance for their kid and additional for themselves. And he got malaria, and they called from the hospital, called our team and said, you know, the hospital here in the capital says there's nothing else they can do. There's kidney failure. It's like, well, you know, they should have notified sooner, but he was on a flight that night to Johannesburg. He was in intensive care for 5 weeks. The flight was $23,000. And that's only from Malawi to Johannesburg. And he was in intensive care 5 weeks. The total bill was $88,000.
Wow.
He recovered wonderfully. He's totally normal. And this is actually 3 years ago. They're still in Malawi. The kid's in university now, not in Malawi, but he visits often. But that's the case where $5,000 for that kid's part for a year.
That is quite a high fee for insurance.
Yes, but that kid's procedure and transport cost $88,000.
Right.
Even in South Africa and Malawi, the total claims for the 3 days in the hospital there, the transport, because he was near death in Malawi, and then on the edge at the top hospital in South Africa. And it's the thing of, you know, I've had malaria more times than I can count. And I've seen people die more times than I want to in spending, because I ran a hospital in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
It's tragic. It's the killer of the world.
Yeah.
But I would say go anyway. It's amazing. Go to places where there is malaria. They use medicine. Spray your, use those toxic things. And protect yourself.
Better than getting malaria.
I'm not watching the chats.
No, there's a couple of people in
over to
there.
you.
There's actually Charlotte, who's in Uganda right now, and her Wi-Fi is not very good, so she's going to have to probably watch the replay. But anyone else who's here, please ask questions. So my question is, you said that you can do certain regions. Can you change the regions as you travel?
On a comprehensive health plan, you can only change at renewal at the 1 year mark.
Okay.
So you choose your regions of the world, because you've made an annual commitment with that.
Okay.
Because you could get drastically ill the first month and we pay 88,000 in claims. And so it's an annual commitment there. With travel insurance, similarly, you usually choose worldwide or worldwide excluding the US when you're purchasing a travel policy.
Exactly.
So you don't have to notify when you change. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of insurance, travel insurance, whatever you call it, say, do you want the US included or not included? Because the big question Americans ask is, once we quit our jobs and no longer have insurance, or, maybe they're entrepreneurs and they're paying a ton of money for insurance, but once they leave the US, because they don't want to keep paying for that insurance or COBRA or whatever it is when they're abroad, their big question is, if we get travel insurance, what do we do when we go home, or we go home for a month or two? So I guess they would have to buy the plan that includes the US. Yes. Because it's hard to buy health insurance for just 1 or 2 months.
No. A whole huge thing there to point out. Apologize. Okay. I don't want us to deviate from that subject you just said. Travel insurance, due to insurance regulations around the world, cannot cover you in your home country. So you can't just add the US or assume that I'm going home, so that policy about it's going to cover me. It's meant for when you leave your country. So when you go home, your policy stops. Even if you purchased it to keep going, it just stopped. And this is across the industry. I was invited to speak in Vienna at the 10th annual global travel insurance conference, and these are generics generic information I'm providing.
Yeah, let us know.
And so when you go home to your home country, you need a gap, short-term health plan to purchase. Not joining a comprehensive, but you need something so that if some injury happens, then that's covered. Sadly, oftentimes those are high deductibles, but it's still better than nothing.
Okay. What companies would you recommend for that, or solutions?
Oh, there are too many nationalities listening live or
I guess I'm
on the
talking about
broadcast.
Americans, because again, we're the ones who have the really expensive healthcare. So I understand when you offer an insurance plan that includes the US, this is for non-Americans who want to travel in the US, but it doesn't work for us when we Americans are in.
Correct.
It doesn't work. So,
or if you're British traveling out, you still wouldn't assume your policy is going to cover you in England when you come home. It wouldn't.
Okay.
Or if you're Australian and buying it, coming back to Australia, no. So
we have
to answer your question on US, a gap or a short-term plan along that line, a good one would be the United Healthcare has one that's called Golden Eagle or Golden something. I forgot now. But it's they're the giants in the US, and they have a short-term plan. There are numerous short-term plans like that, and you could go to ehealthcare.com or not the government marketplace. That's comprehensive health insurance
for the whole year.
But eHealthcare is one of those portals where you can get a short-term plan. But there are a few. Just type in short-term US health insurance.
Okay. Got it.
And just don't use the word travel, because you don't travel home. You do travel, but home is your own country, passport country. But travel insurance does cover short visits to your home country. An incidental trip, it's referred to, and it's usually limited to 15 days per 90 days of coverage. So it's one of those things of, and you don't have to declare that you want your home country. That's more like if you won the lottery and you need to go claim your prize, or I'm kidding. I like to use positive scenarios. If there was a death in the family and you needed to go to the funeral, your policy doesn't end. And if you have an injury at home during that 2 weeks, 15 days, you're covered.
Okay. So very short.
So that's good to keep in mind. Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. So people are, asking similar question, because there's people who are, they're out of the US for 9 months. They go back to the US for a little bit. Yeah, so somebody said we're in Mexico for the last 6 years. Julie, are you American? I think she is. I'm a permanent resident. My daughter is a dual citizen. I usually pay out of pocket for private care in Mexico as it's far less expensive than in the US. We do a short-term emergency plan for when we're in the US. Sorry, I'm trying to click this. Yeah, during the summer. So I mean, wouldn't you say it's still very risky to just pay out of pocket while in Mexico? Because if you have a bad accident, what are you going to do?
Yes, it is.
And I think you can
I'm
buy
thinking of a family in
expat
Panama
insurance.
right now.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, what were you about to say?
No, I was just thinking, I think you can buy private insurance in Mexico if you're living there as an expat or, you're married to a national or
You
something.
can, or a global plan, such as ours, or such as Cigna Global, Aetna International, some of these that global plans that you can exclude US and it would cover you there. Such as, Panama has some of the best coverage in the world. And if you're choosing Mexico, you're also including Panama. If you're in Colombia, that's the same region usually covered.
Okay.
For all those Central South American countries. So if something happens and they need to move you to a better hospital, they're probably going to send you to Panama.
Okay.
And so we have a very high net worth influencer family that, they're five flag theory, and they're getting their children are being born country after country so that parents can eventually get different passports, that kind of thing. They're in Panama and they have claims every year. Of course, their policy goes up every year, but they have a global health plan. They're not American, but they've included their home country on that plan, and they use it. They have it seems like nonstop. And originally they weren't thinking they were going to actually use this, but it's being heavily used. And you never know. My wife being originally a pediatrician, it's that thing. You never know when something's going to be diagnosed. And once it's diagnosed, I'll use myself as an example. I've had a heart attack, open heart surgery.
Wow.
And once that's on there, that is going to be excluded from most policies, because even if you're paying, $8,000 a year, if I just added myself to a policy at 50 years old and I wanted to pay him $15,000 a year to cover me, they're looking at the risk is way too high. He could have another heart attack in Colombia, evac to Panama, and they pay $50,000, but they only collected 15.
Right.
So the risk is too high. So sometimes you can get it and say, okay, will you cover me excluding that condition? Because I could have something else. I could end up breaking both legs,
right,
in a car accident. I want that covered. I'm exercising, I'm healthy, I'm eating really well, and no medication years later.
Good.
But other stuff can happen.
Right.
So I'm covered.
Right. Okay. So
back to questions.
Yeah. No. Again, I'm trying to think for a lot of the newbies who are, looking at it. Can you? I mean, you offer a very premium plan, but some of your competitors or many people use, Safety Wing or IMG or some of these less expensive plans. What can you let us know if there's problems with these plans?
Concisely, what type plan again?
Well, like safety wings. That's a popular one for many Worldschooler families. That it's a travel insurance company, and then IMG and Allianz. Those are kind of like popular ones that you hear.
Yeah, they are.
But
my recommendation,
bare budget, kind of bare minimum coverage kind of stuff.
Right. My recommendation with any company is go to Trustpilot and skip all the 5-star reviews, because many times those are reviews of the purchase process. And try to find reviews about the claims process, because you're buying a service here. You're buying the financing of healthcare. And so that's what you're looking for, no matter what. Type the domain name in Trustpilot. And if there aren't people talking about the claims process and how service is, that's a good thing. Sadly, we don't go to a restaurant and go and write a review of, wow, that steak was great. We usually go and say, hey, be ready to sit for an hour. The food's great, but you may have to wait a while. You know, folks are talking about the negative, and we wish that people would talk about the positive and more often. But, you know, and think about what you get beyond insurance, beyond the service. Because if you don't get ill and injured all the time, you need more for your money than just medical. So is mental health included? We're including unlimited mental health support with our policies for 1 year. Even if you buy a 1 month policy with us, you're getting our non-insured benefits for a year.
Wow.
Is it app enabled? Is there an app for all these things to make it easy? Is there crisis response built in besides a toll-free number to call on a PDF that you had to cut and wash in your wallet? Or, you know, is there, and so those are some of the questions to ask. Do they provide, you know, with us, we're providing airport lounge access, which is cool when you are traveling with kids and you can put them in a playroom or take a shower at some of them. That's a major benefit. With our travel plans, it's available for delayed or canceled flights. With our health plans, it's available unlimited. No restriction on it at all. Because hey, you're paying more, so we'll lessen the restriction to get in, because we pay quite a bit every time you walk into the lounge. But that mental health is a big one. With that non-insured benefits, that comes with crisis response, even when you go home. So if there's a tsunami or a cyclone or anything like that, that's getting you to safety even when you're home during that 12-month membership. So look at how it's processed. Is there chat, not bot, but live chat available for service? How fast does the company care for you? Because that's what we're about, is protecting people. Do they have a plan if you're going into Sudan, South Sudan, Afghanistan, if you're going to go volunteer in Ukraine? Because if it says do not travel on your government site, then the insurance doesn't cover you.
Oh, wow.
It's a level 4 or do not travel. And so, yes, we offer plans that go into war zones or hotspots, because a lot of folks want to serve with their kids. And so that was us a lot of times, because that's our heart. And that's what we do as a company as well, is we exist to give a lot back.
Okay, that's awesome. I just put the link to your website for Insured Nomads. You know, I'm a digital nomad, so I just signed up to be an affiliate. And again, I only do it for companies that are well-known and trustworthy and reputable. Andrew and I have met in the past, or at least digitally. So I know he's legit.
Yes.
So click there to get more information. So Andrew, any other tips that you would give to newbie world schoolers, people just starting out to the digital nomad family lifestyle that we haven't talked about yet? I mean, regarding insurance, covering themselves.
Regarding insurance, bummer. I had a tip unrelated. It's like go slow.
Yeah,
Without
it. You say go slow. Yes, I promote that all the time.
When you get frustrated and you're ready to go to the next place, reconsider, get over that frustration, stay a little bit longer. But you ask tips regarding insurance. Apologies. Realize
how far in advance do they have
around the world?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give about two or three things here.
Okay.
So with travel insurance, you can buy while you're already with us anyway. You can buy once you're already in your location. You don't have to buy this in advance. So if you said, oh, yes, I need to bite the bullet and do this. Sorry, my American expressions. I need to go ahead and activate and get this done. You can go ahead and do that after you've traveled. And that's the case with many of the companies. And so you don't have to do it in advance. And with health insurance, you can't do it more than 30 days in advance across the industry, because you're giving health information and that can change. So they're making a commitment to you saying, yes, for X price, we're going to cover you. for major illnesses and maternity and etc. So in that waiting period, I mean, before that policy starts, if there's too much time, something major could happen and they're on the line to cover it. So 30 days or less, or once you've already gone even, to start a international health plan. Realize though, that this is one of those things that people often don't talk about insurance, they don't ask questions, and then they discover it too late, is that insurance, unless you're admitted to a hospital for multiple days, the hospital wants to get paid. And they're afraid that you're going to skip country.
Right.
And they will never get paid. Or the fact that you may not have insurance and they give you a $5,000 bill, which is, you couldn't even do that in many countries, but some countries, okay, you were there for 5 days and some things happened and you're a foreigner, so we're going to charge you $3,000 or $4,000
extra.
Well,
just in case,
right? Or just because
on your credit card.
Right, they want your credit card, and some countries they will not release you until you get out, until you pay. Many countries.
Wow.
And those bills keep, they're going to charge you nightly. And they're saying, okay, if you were at the hotel down the road, you're going to pay $100 a night or $300 a night if you're a foreigner staying in a nice hotel. So we're going to charge you the same thing until you pay. Of course, the insurance is getting the same bill. So it is reimbursement based almost all across the industry, unless you're there long enough for verification. There's so much fraud in the industry. So much fraud. Wow. It is $30 billion a year in fraud. 30 billion in fraud, where the insurance company is going to ask for documents. And you've already left the hospital and you've got to get those documents to us.
Right.
Because we're going to look at it and say, no, you can't bill them $150 a night to stay there. You charge locals $30 a night. And so we've got to work on all that. So reimbursing you, part of it may be the hospital reimbursing you and us reimbursing you a portion. And it's a headache. It's not intentional from the insurance company.
Right.
It is one of those things of, wait, you did that procedure? You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have run all those tests, and we're not paying for it, and you can't charge the customer for it because you shouldn't have done those things.
But then they won't.
Or something like that.
I know you have to go soon.
No.
You have to go soon, but Ruby has a question. So she's an American. So she says, if I get international travel insurance and then get in the marketplace when I go back home to the US, my plan is to become a European citizen and be able to have their health plan as a backup. What do you think?
So US marketplace is only open for a specific window of time. So if you're thinking of getting in the marketplace, it's something like November 1st through February 1st or something like that, approximately, to get a marketplace plan. So keep in mind, watch those dates. If you want that, keep that in mind.
Right.
If you were considering getting the European plan, realize you need to get a policy for 6 months, or sometimes getting that policy or getting that D7 or whatever visa you're working on may take longer than you anticipate. And so oftentimes it's instead of 6 months, you get a policy for a year, just so you're covered. Some people don't want a local plan because they don't want to deal with the language. But yes, I think having the marketplace plan is a viable option. If you're coming home for holidays, spending 3 or 4 months in the US, it's good. Keep in mind the marketplace has a co-insurance or your responsibility maximum of $15,000 sometimes, and a high deductible. So you still have to be aware of the risk you're taking, because American health plans are so broken. Thank you, everyone, and chat with our folks online, and blessings.
And I want to say, everyone, track down Andrew on LinkedIn. I'll put your LinkedIn thing. So, all right, he had to go, busy guy, but thanks everyone for coming in. And please check your questions. If he's able to come back later, then hopefully he can answer our questions. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone. Talk to you later. Bye.